What is up, guys? Josh here from Honest Audio, and today with me I have the Audeze iSine10s, and these are planar magnetic, first of their kind, planar magnetic in-ear headphones. These are a pretty special set of headphones, and we're gonna get into that more when we get into the sound. They're a different headphone than I'm used to, and yeah, so we're just going to talk about the packaging first. So when you get them, they come in this weird like fake glass plastic thing. Pretty nice packaging in my opinion, little magnetic thing that comes over. The headphones themselves sit right in here, and then right over here is where the case sits with all the accessories inside. So yeah, the packaging is quite nice, and I definitely would keep the packaging to store them away if I ever wanted to store them. And then also here's some of the accessories that it comes with. This is the holder that the headphones came in, and this itself slides into the case. Here's the case, pretty nice case. The holder itself slides into the case right there when you want to store it away, and the headphones get stored like this, obviously without the ear hooks, but they get stored inside, and the wire just kind of wraps around the edge of that, and then you put it inside the case. The case itself is really nice, little magnetic thing over here, and then fake leather, I think, with some weird feeling material, but definitely premium feeling material nonetheless. So here's something I wanted to talk about that it came with. I have never gotten one of these. This is a certificate of authenticity. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that is pretty cool that it comes with that. I've never had that, and that's what let me know that these are a premium headphone, and that's something really cool and something I can appreciate for these headphones. I definitely can appreciate that, and it definitely was a new experience for me. There's a USB that it comes with. I actually don't know what's on that. Didn't bother looking at it. I've had these headphones for about 2 weeks, and I don't really care what's on that because it didn't really matter for my listening. So here's something I bought. This is a pack that you can buy, and it comes with these grooved ear tips, and the grooved ear tips for me allowed me to get a better seal, but I'll talk about that when it comes to comfort. So the grooved ones come with bigger ear hooks, and they were comedically large for me at least. I could not get a good fit with the bigger ear hook, and I couldn't get a good fit with the other ear hooks that are the default ones that it came with either. So here are the default ones. The black ones are in here, and the ear fins themselves are in here, as well as small, medium, and large ear tips, just normal silicone ear tips and not grooved. So that's what it comes with by default. So let's talk about wires. So this comes with this headphone. Hold on, I'm all tangled up. This headphone comes with just a normal 3.5 millimeter headphone jack cable that goes out into a Y split of 2 dual pinned IEM connectors, and I actually like the dual pin more than the MMCX connectors just for longevity's sake. The MMCX connectors don't feel like they last super long, so I think that these are definitely a little better than those, and I do like that these also allow it to go into a flat cable. I do like flat cables, but this flat cable is a little bit cheap feeling. It's a little thin for my taste, and it is a little springy, and I don't like that too much, but it is flat nonetheless, which is nice, and I don't think you'll have too much problems, but if you're going to have these for a long period of time, I would recommend some aftermarket cables just for the durability and the build quality of aftermarket cables. As well as another problem I'm going to get into with this cable is the Y splitter. The Y splitter is too far up. If you can see that, it sits around here when I have my headphones on, and that's just not good. When I go to pick these up off my desk, I have to like lean down and put these in, or I'll pull the other one off the table. I could just put both of them in, but I actually do like to have 2 hands trying to put these in because they're so difficult to put in. We'll get into that when we go to fit and comfort. But yeah, so the Y split is too close up to your neck. Definitely something they should look to change in the future. Audeze, if you're listening, definitely change that. Move it further down. Yeah, so that just is the cable itself. Now we're going to move on to Some other accessories that it comes with an IEM cleaning tool and a shirt clip. If you use shirt clips, let me know. I've never used one. I don't know what kind of people do, but I never use one, so I don't care for that. But the IEM cleaning tool was pretty nice that it comes with that. Some other high-end headphones that are IEMs that I've bought don't come with that, so I was actually looking to get one before these came in. What else? Oh yeah, 1/4-inch adapter. No 1/4-inch adapter with mine, but on a website I saw that it was listed that it did come with one. So I don't know if mine was just missing one or what, but yeah, I didn't get one. But I'm sure if you're looking at these, you probably have some laying around anyways. Okay, so build quality. Build quality on these is kind of questionable. So there are mainly just plastic. There's obviously metal on the inside of the drivers, but the outside is just plastic, and it is a nice feeling plastic, but I don't think, I don't know, personally, if I'm paying $350, yeah, guys, these are $350 headphones, so, and actually $400 if you get the cipher cable, which I personally did not get. But yeah, for $350, the build quality doesn't seem too great. The connectors themselves seem really sturdy, which is good, because that is a point of failure on some headphones, which I don't think that would be the personal point of failure on these. But the outside, the nozzle and the headphone enclosure itself is plastic, and I personally don't like seeing plastic on headphones this expensive. And also the sound tubes are very large and long, and with plastic, I feel like if something was to knock into that or hit it the wrong way, it would break. And whereas metal would definitely not break. So that's build quality for the most part. The ear hooks are also plastic. They're cheap plastic. Those are probably going to be the first thing to break on these headphones. If you use the ear hooks consistently, I think they'll break over time. But it does come with a spare, so that's fine, and it shouldn't be too expensive to replace them anyways. So not a big deal. Comfort and fit. So this is going to vary from person to person a lot more than it will for over-ear headphones, because these are in-ear headphones. But for this headphone specifically, it's going to vary from person to person. And I think even more than some IEMs, because these are quite large. So these don't have a large selection of tips, and I could only use the smallest default silicone ones and the smallest groove silicone ones. The other ones are way too big for me. The soundboard itself is actually quite large on its own, and to put an even bigger ear tips on would just not allow me to get a proper seal and make it sound kind of weird. So I used only the smallest ones, and the fit was still kind of a little tight, so I couldn't get it quite deep enough into my ear as I think some people could. Maybe my ears are like just smaller than average, I don't know. But for these headphones, my ears were definitely a little too small. And for the ear hooks themselves, the ear hooks are fine for most people, I'm sure, but for me, here, I'll just show you. I'll put them in real quick. These, well, if I pull on them a little bit, I'm not even tugging very hard, and you can see they're just coming right out. So if someone were to tug on my wire or anything, or something was to get caught, these would come right out of my ear. The ear hooks are not going to keep them in for me. Might for other people, but they don't properly hold the headphone in for my ears. And the ear fins also, they do come with ear fins that are supposed to hook on the inside of your ear. I've used them on other headphones, but for these headphones specifically, they're too heavy and they don't hold in the headphones at all. So maybe you'll have better luck if you decide to pick up these headphones, but for me, the ear fins are unusable and basically a waste to come with. So let's talk about the tube that carries the sound. It's way too big on these headphones. I think that it does help out with the sound itself, but it's, for most people, I think it's gonna bother them. And because maybe I'm wrong on that, but I did read on Reddit some people having problems with these being too big, and I think that's going to be a reoccurring thing for some people on these headphones, and not just like a small group. I think a pretty large group of people. So they also are slightly heavy You're going to get that with planar drivers. They, especially for IEMs, they're a little heavy, and they're not metal either. So that's probably why they didn't go with metal build, but they are still heavy even without a metal build, and that does contribute to the lack of comfort. The ear hooks do start to bother me a little bit after about an hour and a half, 2 hours of use. So it's not a huge problem, but they are the heaviness doesn't help with the comfort. So yeah, and I would say these headphones are quite similar to these actually when it comes to comfort. Here's the VE Monks. Most people don't have problems with these, but they are a little too large for my ear holes, and they do start to bother me after an hour and a half, 2 hours. So if you have problems with the VE Monks, maybe you're gonna have problems with these. I don't know, but that's just a point of reference to give you from my perspective. So the power on these things. Let's move on to the power these things need. They don't need too much power. I think that I drove them off my phone for a little bit. I didn't like the sound too much that was coming out. I thought the sound was kind of thin. You lose a little bit of detail, and you lose a little bit of thickness when it comes to underpowering these things. So I wouldn't drive them off my phone for too long. It wouldn't sound too great. I would pick up some other headphones if you're just going to be using them out of your phone. But the E10K I do have here, and I drove them out of the E10K for a little bit, and I thought the power that thing provided was enough. I don't think it's clean enough. I think the power itself, though, it was enough. I don't think you need anything more powerful. I just think you need something cleaner. The DAC on that is not good enough for these headphones. These definitely appreciated the better DAC of my iFi Black Label more than other headphones have. These definitely utilize that better DAC, whereas some of my other headphones do not utilize that better DAC. These definitely do, and I think that has to do with the clarity and the detail and the speed of these. So yeah, when it comes to power, you don't need something too powerful, but definitely if you're just driving them out of a phone, I would look into, or off of your computer, I'd look into maybe a small DAC amp combo. I would focus more on the DAC though, the cleanness of the DAC, than I would on the power of the DAC amp combo. So yeah, other weird things just to talk about real quick before we get into sound. These headphones were difficult to put in at first, but I got used to putting them in as I fail trying to put in this left one in. All right, yeah, we got in. See, you can see it is a little difficult to get in sometimes, but yeah, they do look weird, whatever, not something that bothers me. I don't really care. The sound, though, is better if I hold them like this, if you're watching me push them in a little bit, because they are going a little deeper in my ear, and that goes along with fit, but they do sound better, and that's something that bothered me, knowing that they could sound better, and they just don't for the most part, because I'm not going to sit here for long listening sessions holding them like that. That would just be weird. Also, I had a problem with seal in the right ear specifically. All ears, even your ears, are slightly shaped differently, but between your left and right ear, and my right ear was getting worse seal, and when I moved around, I like to get into my music and sing, and I eat sometimes when I'm listening, and if I move my jaw around, there's a weird crunching, kind of crinkling paper noise almost, or like squishing noise. I don't know how to explain it, but I was getting that in my right ear, and that's something that really took me out of the music. And if you're someone who moves around while they're listening at all, that might be a problem if these don't fit properly. You might get that crunching noise, but I think that's more of a personal problem than it is universal, applying to everyone. So, all right, let's finally get into sound, the thing that matters most. And the first thing I wanted to talk about with these headphones is the sound stage and the detail, because those are the things that I think this headphone does great. I think the sound stage on these is better than anything I've ever heard, even over-ear headphones. I haven't heard too many things that I would say are very wide. The thing I listen to most is my HD 650s, and those definitely are not wide, even though they're open back. And these definitely have that wide soundstage and that expansiveness, and which is great. And also having that, they don't lose detail. And I think that has to do with the speed of the driver and the clarity that these things have. They're very transparent, and you can notice that right when you pick them up. They definitely have that detail even with that soundstage, and the imaging is still fine. You can tell where everything is coming from. Maybe not as precise as something that's a closer soundstage. You do lose a little bit as the further you go out, the harder it is to pinpoint where things are coming from. So you might lose a little bit, but nothing I would complain about for sure on these headphones. And then but with that soundstage, you do lose a little bit of thickness to the sound. So these aren't going to be very intimate headphones. They do sound a little bit thin for my preference, because I listen to more like closed things, not closed back, but like more close together and more intimate sounding headphones usually. So that's a preference thing, and I think that's something I could get used to over time. I did listen to these though for about 2 weeks, so I didn't quite get used to it. At first I was really taken back by it. I was like, oh, these sound very thin, and I didn't like them that much. But as I listened to them a little bit more and got used to the open sound stage, it didn't really become a problem as much for me. So that's a preference thing. If you'd like more intimate things, I wouldn't go for these headphones. They're not super intimate. They're more expansive and have a little bit of a thin sound to them. But other than that, let's move on to bass. And the bass on these headphones is my preference for bass. So sub bass is there. Whereas in other headphones like the 650s, sub bass is not there. It rolls off too quickly for me. You don't get that impact. They have that. The 650 has that thick mid bass, like overemphasized, in my opinion, mid bass, and that warm sound. Whereas these have that deep sub bass impact, and the mid bass is actually, I would say, a little bit underemphasized, and which is good for me. I don't like the mid bass bleeding into the mid range, and I like it kind of underemphasized. I'd rather have the impact of the sub bass with a little bit less mid bass. So these are actually perfect when it comes to bass, and the bass on these is really fast too. And you're gonna get that with planar magnetics. So I've heard the bass is fast and the decay is really good of the bass. It doesn't linger too long. And if say you have a double kick drum in a song, you're going to hear both kick drums. You're not going to hear just like a mush together one and a half kick drum. I don't even know if that's a thing, but you know what I mean. With slower headphones, you don't get both sounds of the kick drum. It kind of just sounds like one prolonged kick drum. Whereas this, you're going to get thud thud, and it's going to sound great. So I think bass is definitely some of the best bass I've heard on headphones, whether it's IEMs or full-size headphones. All right, moving on to mid-range. Mid-range is not going to be as universally good as the bass is on these headphones. These headphones have a weird mid-range. So the mid-range is good on some songs, but on others it sounds kind of wonky. And I think it's more male vocals than female vocals. But sometimes the male vocals on some songs are not good enough, and they sound kind of weird. So, but while on other songs they sound great. So it's kind of a mixed bag. You're gonna get some songs where you love the mid range, and some songs where you have to just skip the track because the mid range just sounds weird. So, and that's kind of a reoccurring thing when I was spending time with these headphones, was the selectivity of these headphones. So whether it's comfort, fit, or sound quality in general, these headphones are selective. So some people they're going to fit fine, some people they're going to be comfortable, but for me they didn't. And then the same thing goes for sound. On some tracks they're going to sound amazing, these headphones, and on others they're just going to sound weird, and you might actually have to end up skipping some tracks that you like because the headphones don't work with them well. And that's why I can't recommend these headphones for people who are going to have them as their only headphones, because they don't fill that role of being universally good across the board when it comes to sound for every single track. But yeah, so that's specifically in the mid-range though, and maybe a little bit in the treble. The treble I think is a little peaky. I think that it's not as smooth as some headphones, because in some songs, I couldn't find measurements for this, by the way, so I couldn't really tell, but to me it sounded peaky because in some songs the treble seemed too laid back for me, and whereas in other songs it sounded a little bit harsh. So I think that there are a few peaks. You could EQ that out, once measurements start coming out for these headphones, you could EQ the treble a little bit and make it a little bit better. But again, the treble is a little bit of a mixed bag. Still good, but it left a little bit of sparkle and energy to be desired when I was listening to certain tracks. But all in all, the treble was good enough. It was definitely good enough. Detail retrieval, we talked about this, very good, but too good almost for some songs. And this is going to go back to selectivity, and some problems I had with the headphone was the detail you get in some songs is amazing, and then while in other songs it's too good, and you can tell the song is poorly recorded or poorly mastered, poorly produced in general, and you're gonna not want to listen to that song anymore. So that's a problem you have with this headphone. But it's not a problem. It's a problem with the songs, but all in all, it's not gonna lead to a good listening experience. So I don't know. Your mileage may vary. If you listen, I listen to Spotify Premium myself. So as a point of reference for you guys, I know Spotify can have varying quality when it comes to their music. Some tracks sound great, whereas others, the noise floor is disgusting, and I can't listen to them on some headphones, and it's a shame. But Spotify is convenient for me, so that's why I do the majority of my listening on there. Miscellaneous things about the songs. I would say this is a preference thing, but not fit for my typical listening. Like I said, Spotify. That's probably why some of this tracks sounded great and some sounded bad, but not fit for my specific listening. So your mileage may vary. If you're listening to high quality, high res stuff, you're going to have a better experience, I think, with these headphones than I did. And that's saying a lot, because I still did enjoy listening to these, and I do enjoy listening to these, just not as much as some of my other headphones. So, some genres that I would recommend listening to is like classical. I think anything with that expansive soundstage and multiple instruments and a lot of detail is going to sound great. So classical definitely sounds great. EDM sounds great because of the sub bass that you're getting out of these, and less mid bass bloat than you would on other headphones. I think EDM does sound great, and it's very dynamic. The treble can be good on some songs in EDM and not as great on other songs. So that goes along with the lack of energy in certain tracks that these have. So I don't know. EDM will sound great on some and sound only okay on others. But overall, I would say they're great for EDM listening. Jazz, I like jazz on these headphones. I don't listen to that much jazz, but live jazz on these headphones, like Jazz at the Pawn Shop or whatever that album's called that people like recommending, that sounded great on these. And I think that has to do with the soundstage. Once I got used to the soundstage of these, that just sounded so cool to listen to. I felt like I was almost sitting in that pawn shop. You can tell where things are. You can hear the sax coming from one direction, the bass coming from another, and people like listening and eating or doing whatever they're doing, I don't know, in the background. It sounded really cool. So that's definitely something I would check out if you pick up these headphones, is some live jazz. All right, let's move on to some comparisons. So really quick comparisons. My 650s versus these, they're around the same price point. The 650s vary in price a little bit more than these, but they're around the same price point. And I think that the mid-range of the 650s is universally better than these. Some songs, very few songs, these do better vocals than the 650s do, which is quite a bit of praise that I'm going to be giving these. But not good enough where I would take these over my 650s for vocals, because of the fact that my 650s, I've never complained about vocals on any track with my 650s. Hold on. I've never complained about my 650s for vocals on any tracks, whereas these are very selective and not universally as good as the 650s. So whereas these can sound better on few, and I mean few tracks, when it comes to vocals, overall the vocals in the mid-range of the 650s is way better. And bass, these definitely do bass better. The 650s, in my opinion, have too much mid-bass bloat, and they don't have that quick bass. It's more of a warm, gooey sound, which some people may prefer, but personally, for my preferences, I like that sub-bass impact. The 650s sub-bass rolls off too soon for me, and whereas these reach down, and I would boost the sub-bass a little bit on these just because I like I might be a little bit of a bass head secretly, though I don't want to admit it. I would sub bass boost these, and I wouldn't boost the mid bass on these, but definitely sub bass just to get that extra thump and that extra impact on these. So, but yeah, these definitely take the cake for mid range. Comparing them to not mid range, bass and sub bass, comparing them to my 650s, and treble is pretty similar. I would say these have slightly better treble. The 650s, these are laid back at some times, but the 650s are always laid back when it comes to treble, and you do lose a little bit of clarity. They are veiled, but for my preferences, I don't mind that, but some people are going to find problem with that in the 650s, whereas for these, you might not find that problem. But again, with the peakiness, there might be a little bit of peakiness in these that people will find problem with. So I don't know. I'd really have to see measurements when it comes to the treble. I have a hard time deciding whether or not these are too treble forward or not treble forward enough, and I think that has to do with certain peaks. So I would have to see measurements, but you definitely in the future could probably EQ that out, and these would probably take the cake for treble when it comes to, and highs when it comes to comparing it to the 650s. So overall sound, the 650s are going to be more universally praised, and I think that more universally loved. If you're questioning whether or not to go between these and the 650s, I would just take the 650s because you can boost the sub bass of the 650s a little bit, and I think the overall sound is going to sound a little bit better on the 650s, more pleasing and more universally loved. All right, another quick comparison is to my P1s. The P1s are a little cheaper, but man, do I love those headphones. So they come in at around $200. You can get them used for like $180, $170. The P1s are great. The build quality of the P1s, all metal for the enclosure, just amazing. The wire's better. Everything about that headphone when it comes to build quality, comfort, accessories, P1s all the way. Not even comparison. And they have better isolation, obviously, because these are the iSines are open back. If you didn't know that, I think most people looking at this review probably know that. The P1s isolate better, better accessories, better build, but sound is a little bit closer. So sound is, the vocals are slightly worse than my P1s, and I hate saying that because they sound, the signs sound so good on some of the tracks, but for overall, all of the listening that I've done, I would take the P1s over the iSines for vocals. Bass is a different story. Again, faster bass on the iSines, and probably deeper reaching bass. The sub bass on the iSines is probably still a little bit deeper than the P1s. Although I have bass boost on my iFi Black Label, my FIO E10K, my Shitlear boost the bass. I have another FIO thing for portable that I can bring around that boost the bass, and so bass isn't a problem for me on the P1s because I have that bass boost. But if you don't have a bass boost, these definitely have default better bass than the P1s. But again, you could, even if you don't have bass boost, you could EQ up the P1s slightly in the sub bass and maybe a little bit mid bass. Those are the mid bass on the P1s is a little lean for my preference, even though I don't prefer that much mid bass. Treble, not a comparison between this and the P1. The P1 takes the cake for treble. Some people find the P1s too bright. I do not. That's going to come down to preference, but I think clarity and detail on the highs and the treble, the P1s definitely take the cake, and they have that energy that I like and that sparkliness that I personally like. So treble, definitely going to the P1s. Overall sound, again, I think comes down to preference, but overall package, when you look at accessories, build quality, convenience, everything like that, portability, P1s every day of the week. It's sad to say because these are more expensive headphones. I wanted to like these more than the P1s, and I wanted to keep these over the P1s. These were going to be my replacement for the P1s, but once I looked at build quality and comfort and stuff like that, I just can't replace my P1s with these. It's just not going to happen. So So yeah, that's the few deal breakers I think for me overall is just the comfort, the convenience, getting them in, finding a good seal. It's going to be different for everyone, yeah, but I think that for me, the P1s, I would have an easier time recommending them to people because I think that you're not going to have as much of a problem with them when it comes to in-ear headphones. Even though those don't have the same sound stage and the same quickness of their sound, I think the Pinnacle P1s, the MEE Pinnacle P1s are just going to sound better overall. And I think that they're going to be a better buy overall at the price point. So yeah, I can't find like specific uses for these where I can recommend them at $350. They're great. They are great headphones, but I can't take them portably because they pull out of my ears. The build quality, I don't trust to take portably either. And the comfort, I don't take. I wouldn't want to listen to these for long periods of time at home because of the comfort. I'd rather just go with an over-ear headphone. And I don't know. I struggle to find uses for these headphones. Maybe if you own these headphones, let me know in the comments down below what you specifically like to use them for and what you like them, what other headphones you've used in the past that you've used these to replace. But yeah, I struggle to recommend these at $350. At $200, I don't know if they could sell these for $200 and still make money, but if I was to price these, that's what I would price these as. I would price these more as a side grade to P1s, whereas they have the open sound and they have less isolation, but they have that sound stage and they have that deeper sub bass and they do sound better on some tracks. But I couldn't recommend these as an upgrade to my P1s and to other IMs that I've tried. So yeah, that's it. I guess to wrap it up. Let me know if I missed anything in the comments down below. Any questions or any comments. If you own these yourselves, let me know your opinions down below. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Like most people know, sound is completely subjective, so everyone's going to have a different opinion when it comes to these on sound and even on comfort and fit. So let me know. Anything I did mention as far as audio equipment is going to be probably linked down in the description below. So if you want to check any of those things out, look down there. And other than that, I'm going to be coming out with my next review in a few days. And yeah, stay tuned for that. And peace out, guys.